So welcome to this brand new section, and this is an exciting section because this is going to be all about driving traffic to your store. You put an incredible amount of hard work in to get to this point, and now this is where we actually start to make some money. Now the first thing we need to do is to set up your Facebook advert account. Now I'm going to start with an apology because this is actually very difficult for me to show you because everybody is in a different situation. Now for me, I have a business manager account with many different accounts, both for my own personal use and also for teaching. So to show you that is not going to help you if you're first getting started. So that's the bad news, if you like. Now the good news is that setting up a Facebook advert account is free and it's also very straightforward. Now there's a couple of ways that you can get to this. If you go over to your Facebook page, you remember you set that up some time ago, and click on the little arrow here, it brings up the menu and you're going to find here create ads. Okay, I hope you can see that. Click on create ads and that's going to take you through the process. Now if on your Facebook page you don't see that, then just simply head over to Google and type in set up Facebook advert account and you will find plenty of instructions to guide you through. So apologies, I can't hold your hand and literally show you how to do this, but I hope you understand the difficulty from my point of view. But as I say, the good news is it's free and it's very easy to do. So go to your Facebook page or go to Google and within a few minutes you'll be up and running, and I'll see you in the next lecture where we're going to talk about setting up the Facebook pixel. Okay, great. So I hope you've successfully set up your Facebook advert account. Now, the next key thing that we need to set up before we can actually start advertising is what's called the Facebook pixel. Okay. Now, what is the Facebook pixel? Well, it's a very clever piece of code, but all I want you to bear in mind at the moment is it's just a way of tracking customers that come to your site. Okay. So Facebook is going to send traffic from Facebook to your site. Okay. And then the pixel is going to track. And the pixel is going to understand the sorts of customers that are coming to your site, and it's going to learn about them, and it's going to increasingly send more customers that are more and more likely to buy from you. So it's a very clever piece of software, and the good news is you don't need to understand anything about it at all. It's going to do all the work for you, but we do need to get it installed. So let's see exactly how we're going to do that. Now with your Facebook advert account set up, you should be able to find somewhere in your menu system, and again this will be potentially slightly different for most people, you should be able to find somewhere that says pixels. Okay, that's what you're looking for. So what I've done here is I've opened up my menu system and in here I can see pixels. Okay, that's what I'm looking for. Now if you don't see that, just Google set up Facebook pixel or something along those lines for your particular case. But within a menu somewhere you are going to see pixels, and that's what I want you to click on. And you should land on a page like this. Create a Facebook pixel. Okay, add the Facebook pixel to your website to measure the impact of your ads. And as I was just discussing, the pixel will allow you to track your website activities and essentially improve your return on investing, and then keep sending customers that are more and more likely to buy from you. So all you need to do is to click on create a pixel. Now we can give it a name. It proposes Tim's Super Deals Pixel, which is absolutely fine with me. So let's click on create. And now we need to install the pixel code. Okay, so it says here to use Facebook pixel, you must first install pixel code on your website. What we want to do is take this first one, use an integration or tag manager. So simply click on that option. And then Shopify makes this really easy. So click on the Shopify icon over here. And it takes us through some very simple steps. So the first thing it wants us to do is to go to your Shopify admin panel. Okay, and just before we do that, I want to draw your attention to this number here, because this is my pixel ID. All right, that number is the thing that I need to copy and paste into the appropriate place, which I'm going to show you right now. So what I want you to do is to double click on that and copy it. And then I want you to head over to your admin system. Go to your online store and then preferences. And if you scroll down a bit here, you're going to see this title, Facebook Pixel. And all we need to do then is just to paste in that ID. So just right mouse click and paste. And then obviously save. Now let's go back to the instructions. So that's all done. We've done 1, we've also done 2. And the last thing we want to do is to check the pixel status. And what it says is to go over to your manager and select pixels from the top menu. And if the status is active, your pixel has been installed correctly. Now this is important. It may take up to 20 minutes for your pixel status to change. Okay, so what we're looking for is this here, where we've got pixel and then details and then status active. All right, so let's do exactly that. Let's close this now. Let's go over to pixels. And you should see this. So we've got Tim's Super Deals, the pixel with the ID that we set up. Now ignore this no recent activity for the moment, because what you're really looking for here is this dot here. This might be grey or it might be green. Now it needs to be green. Mine is green at the moment, and if it's not green, then just go to your admin system and go straight to your store. Click around a little bit on the store just to trigger the pixel. Then go back to this admin system here and just simply refresh the page. Now that should then be green, okay? That's your green light. Everything is done correctly. If not, then you'll need to go back and just follow those instructions again. So if I now click on this pixel link, it takes you to a dashboard specifically for the pixel. Now, we're not going to get into this in detail, but I do want to show you just one thing. If you go over here to the diagnostics, this is where you can ultimately check to see if your pixel is set up correctly. So having clicked on diagnostics, you can see that it says there are no issues with your pixel. Enjoy your day. Because if you go back to events, you might see this message here, no recent activity, and it's still prompting to set up the pixel. Now that's somewhat misleading, but if you're still not convinced, you want to be absolutely sure, then just go back to your store and add a few things into your cart. In other words, create events on your site. So if I go add to cart here and then go to the checkout, for example, and now I head back to this page and refresh, you see things have been updated. So events received 6, so that's just me clicking around. And then if you look down here, you can see that it's starting to record various things on my site. So there you go. That's ultimate proof that the pixel is fully installed. So I hope you've managed to follow those instructions. If you're at all confused or you're not seeing what I'm seeing here, then just go back and go through it carefully again. All right, you'll definitely get here. It's not a necessarily complicated process, but you do need to be a little bit careful. So there we go, Pixel all installed. Finally, we can start to drive traffic to our store and start making sales. So congratulations, you made it to the point where we are going to create our very first Facebook ad and drive traffic to our store. Now, I'm going to use my heart-shaped dog pendant as an example throughout this lecture. I'm going to show you how to set up the ad on Facebook and then how to actually bring targeted customers to your site so that they will buy it. So the first thing I want to do is head over to the Ads Manager. Now, having set up your Facebook Ads account, you should have a button somewhere that says Create Advert. And when you click on that, you should be looking at a page something like this. Now, I say something like this because Facebook is always a bit of a moving target. And whenever I do Facebook teaching of any kind, I always have to say that by the time you look at it, it might look slightly different. But that said, this page has actually remained much the same for quite some time now. Now, it starts off by saying, what's your marketing objective? And what we have here are 3 areas: awareness, consideration, and conversion. Now, awareness is all about building up your brand. Consideration is basically driving traffic to your brand. And conversion is actually measuring how people do things once they are on your site. And it's conversion that we're going to focus on. Now, a conversion could be any event on your website. It could be simply visiting a page. It could be putting something into the cart, or ultimately it could be buying something from your site. So we are going to do conversion ads. So the first thing we need to do is to click on conversions. Now, if I scroll down a bit, you'll see this: conversions. Get people to take valuable actions on your website, all right? Such as adding payment info or making a purchase, okay? Just as I was saying. And just here for completeness, it says use the Facebook pixel to track and measure conversions. All right, so that ties in very nicely with the last lecture where we set up the Facebook pixel and I explained that it is doing exactly that. It's tracking and measuring conversions and bringing more and more targeted people to your site. But remember, I also said you don't need to worry about it. It's working its magic in the background. Now, for the moment, all we want to do is just create a campaign name. So I'm going to call mine the Heart-Shaped Dog Pendant Campaign 1. Now, that's a good name for a campaign because it says exactly what I'm advertising, the Heart-Shaped Dog Pendant, and I put a 1 on the end just in case I want to do other campaigns later on. So having chosen your campaign name, and I suggest you use exactly that method, click on Set Up Ad Account. Now, this is something you'll only need to go through once when you're very first getting started. This page isn't going to keep on popping up all of the time. But it basically just asks me to set up my account. So it's looking for my account country, the currency I want to report in, and my time zone. So I'm just going to leave it that by default. Look at yours, make sure you're happy, and then simply click on Continue. So what you get now is this fairly complex form, which is essentially all about defining the audience that you want to target to bring to your site to buy your product. Okay. Now, things can get very involved with Facebook. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the essential items that you need to get started as quickly as possible. Now, the first thing I want to do is come up with an ad set name. So very unoriginal, but I'm just going to call this ad set 1, okay, just purely for teaching purposes. You'll see later on that we're going to create an ad set 2, okay, but for the moment just accept that we're going to call it ad set 1. Now the next thing is we come down to this conversion section. Now if I click in here, you get to see various conversion events. You remember just now I said that a conversion could be something that happens on your website. So let's have a look at some of these. We've got view content, which basically means somebody viewing one of our pages. We've got an add to cart. We've got an initiate the checkout process. Somebody doing a search, adding to a wish list. We don't actually have that on my site at the moment. Adding their payment info, making a purchase, etc. These are all conversion events. And you might notice that some of them have got a green dot next to them, like this view content, and some of them have got a red dot next to them, like this purchase one here. And a green dot basically means that that event has already fired on our website somewhere, because this is the magic of the pixel. You remember when we were setting up the pixel, I said, if you don't see it basically being active, to go to your site and just click around, which is exactly what I did. And so I basically fired these events. I viewed a content. You remember I added something to the cart, so these are green. But I never bought anything off my website. So for the moment, the purchase one is red. Now, this is the very, very clever bit, the bit you don't have to worry about, but this really is the magic of Facebook ads. Because if I select, for example, purchase, what it means is that when somebody buys something from my site, Facebook can see the profile, that type of person. It can start to build up an idea of the sorts of people that are going to buy from my business. And then what it will do is it will send more people like that to my site. It starts to learn from itself. It's very, very clever. And of course, it's in Facebook's interest, clearly, to send as much traffic as possible to your site to buy, because if that happens, you're obviously going to be spending more money with Facebook ads. So that's exactly what I want you to do. I want you to take the purchase event, and then I'm going to scroll down, and we're going to talk about the all-important audience. Now we're going to create a new audience, and I want you to scroll straight down to this location. Now by default it'll have the country where you are currently residing, but what you want to do in here is put in United States. We're going to target people in the US to start with. Now obviously if you're already in the US you don't need to do this, but just select United States as a country. Right, now as we scroll down here we now get to play around with age, gender and language. Now at this point we're talking about your ideal customer. You remember way back we were talking about the customer avatar, the type of person who's going to buy your products. Well, hopefully you've given that some serious thought, and if you haven't done, you need to do that before you fill in this next bit. But basically that's where we're starting to define that now for our campaign. So for example, with dog jewelry, I know from experience that mostly it's women 35 and above. So I would put in here for the age 35, select women, and then for here I basically want people who are English speaking. At the end of the day, my site is in English, so it doesn't make much sense to send people who aren't English speaking. Now at this point, if you look over here, you get this kind of barometer thing here, and we get a potential reach of 66 million people. Now, you might be thinking, wow, that's incredible. All I got to do is get 1% of those and I've made a fortune. But it doesn't work like that. 66 million people is way, way, way too broad for Facebook to start with, to start to really understand your customer. What you need to do in the beginning is to give Facebook a helping hand, is to try and define as closely as possible the targeted audience yourself, and then from there, they will help you. But if you just give them literally too much, too broad an audience in the beginning, it's very difficult for them to figure out exactly who is the best person for you. So with that in mind, we now come down to this detailed targeting section. So this is where we're going to start to narrow down our audience. Now the detailed targeting relates very strongly to the buyers and communities lecture. And if you don't remember that, because it was some time ago, I really recommend you go back and watch that now. So basically what we've been talking about here with age, gender and languages is more about the broader sense of the customer avatar. And now we're talking about detailed targeting, which is more related to the buyers and the communities. Now, if you remember, the buyers and communities lecture was all about trying to find the people who are actually going to buy our products. And I mentioned in that lecture Labradors and a product called BarkBox. And I'm going to use that now to show exactly how my thought processes work. So I'm going to type into this first box Labrador. And it suggests a bunch of options, but I'm looking for the one most relevant. So I'm going to take Labrador Retriever, which has 9.7 million people who effectively liked that particular page. So I'm going to take that. And now what I want to do is narrow the audience further. So if you have watched that lecture on buyers and communities, you'll remember that Labrador Retriever is fine. People will like Labradors, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they own one. But by narrowing the audience and bringing in, let's say, proof that people do own a Labrador, then I am far more likely to hit the people who really own a Labrador and are therefore more likely to buy my product. So I'm going to click on Narrow Audience. And here, in accordance with my lecture, I'm going to type in BarkBox. Now, just to remind you, BarkBox is a company that will deliver periodically a bunch of goodies for your dog. So if you didn't own a dog, that would kind of be a weird thing to sign up for. So BarkBox for me is pretty good proof. Now, the last thing I want you to do is just to uncheck this box here, this expand interest box. Now at this point you will notice that the potential reach has fallen from several million to 800,000, and that is exactly the area we want to be in. In fact, and you might want to write this down, your target audience when you are testing, because we are testing at the moment, we are basically seeing if we can sell this product to this targeted audience. Your potential reach for your targeted audience at this stage should be between 500,000 and 1 million-ish, all right? Write that down, that's key. So your objective here is therefore to get a targeted audience within that band. Now, less than 500,000, really Facebook doesn't have enough to work with, and more than that, we are giving it too much to do. So that is the sweet spot. Now, before we move on to the form, what I want to say is that for this business model, this is where you are going to spend the majority of your time. Defining your target customer is the key to success of this. If you think about it, up to this point, it's been fairly formulaic. I can teach you how to build a Shopify store. We can go through all that. We can make things look beautiful. We can choose products. We can get them from AliExpress. You are basically following a formula. But at this stage, you really need to think about your customer avatar and how you're going to apply it to your Facebook targeting at this stage. It is super, super important. Or to put it another way, if you don't, you're going to find it very difficult to build out a really great business. So I trust that point is well and truly driven home. So let's carry on down through the form. Now, the next thing we want to focus on are the placements. Now, by default, Facebook says it wants to do automatic placements for you. But actually, you don't want to do that. You want to click on Edit Placements, and it pulls up all kinds of options. So to get this onto one screen here. Now, first of all, we have the devices, mobile or desktop or both. Then we have all these various platforms: Facebook, Instagram, which of course is owned by Facebook, the audience network, and Messenger. Now, I don't want to get into a lot of detail about these different platforms, but what I am going to say, first of all, is that what I do these days is I focus on mobile. The web goes more and more mobile every day. I'm sure you've seen the headlines. And really, targeting mobile is where you want to be. It's the best place to spend your money. So I always check on mobile, and you might see a small reduction in your potential reach, but there you go. That proves really to me how important mobile is. We've lost 10,000 people. That's all from our original estimate. Now, for the platforms, Facebook, of course, is absolutely fine. Instagram, if you like, but what I don't do is the audience network. I find that it does not bring me any decent results. The audience network is effectively advertising off Facebook, off Instagram with their so-called partners. It will bring you traffic, I can guarantee that, but it will bring you poor quality traffic. It won't bring you people who will buy your product. So effectively, you are wasting your money. And for me, I also put Messenger in that same bracket. I don't feel that it really brings me any benefit. So I leave with Facebook and Instagram, and then that basically is it. So I can then continue down to the all-important subject of the budget and schedule. Now, the budget is set at $20. Now, that is way too high. We are testing at this phase. We are testing, as I said before, to see if we can basically sell this product to this audience. And we therefore do not want to be spending $20 a day. So what I suggest you do, my recommendation is always to spend between $3 and $5 a day. That's all you need to do in this test phase. You will see that once you find a winning product, and we'll talk about this in a bit later on, once you find that winning product, we will scale up. We will scale up our budget, and I'll teach you how to do that. And you'll increase that potential reach audience. You will therefore increase your exposure, and you will sell more and more. But in the beginning, that is not our goal. We want to keep a tight budget. So I'm simply going to put in 3 here. And then for the rest of this, we really don't need to worry about it. All of this stuff we can simply accept. So there we go. That brings us to the end of the form. So you've carefully defined your audience and you've set up a budget. Now in the next part, in part 2, coming up any second, we are going to look at setting up the advert itself. So I want you to click on that continue button and I will see you in a second. Okay, welcome back to part 2 of creating your first Facebook ad. Now, I hope you clicked on that continue button from the previous lecture and you're now looking at this page. And on this page, it's all about creating the advert itself. So once again, I'm going to take you through the key points so you learn as quickly as possible what this is all about. So the first thing we want to do is give it a name. So I'm simply going to call it Advert 1. Then what we want to do is set the identity. Now that simply means making sure that the Facebook page is correctly associated with the ad. So if you've only got one Facebook page, which is likely, there won't be any options. I have various Facebook pages for my own businesses and for teaching, so I get this little drop-down list box here. But just make sure the appropriate page that you set up all those lectures ago is showing up here. Okay, so for me, Tim's Super Deals. Now let's scroll down to the format. Now there are various formats available here, but to get going in this first instance, we are going to focus on the single image. So I want you to select the single image. And then as we scroll down here, we need to add an image. We need an image on our ad. Facebook is all about the images and a limited amount of text, as you'll see. So clearly what I want is an image of my heart-shaped pendant. So all I need to do is click on Upload Images. Get that from my PC and upload. Now it might not look quite right, so you can click on this little thing here and you can basically position it as you want. And you see it's going to show up on Facebook and on Instagram. If I click on Instagram, this is how it's going to look. And if I click on Facebook, that's how it's going to look. All right. So if you're happy with that, just click on Done. Now with that out of the way, the next thing we want to talk about are these links. Now this link section is essentially all about where the customer is going to go once they click on your ad. Where's it going to link to? So you can see already the ad over here building up. We've got the image in there already. But what I want to draw your attention to straight away is this website URL. Now this is where we want them to go. And where we want them to go is straight to the product page, not to the home page, not anywhere else. We want to bring them for continuity straight from the advert to the product page. We want that connection so that they're not surprised at all by what they see once they click on the link. So to get the link, just go back to your store, or in this case, my store, grab the link itself, and then paste it into here. Now what you're going to see once it's done that is it's going to drag in some information. So straight away there you see that it's got heart-shaped dog pendant in the headline, and I'm sure you noticed that the text, where there was really nothing here at all before, it's now pulled in that text that we wrote on the product description page. So would you love to own this heart-shaped dog pendant? Show your love of dogs, high quality, and then it's cut off because of the limited space. But yeah, you can see that it's coming from this, right? So what we want to do is just tidy some of this up now. Now the question, as I said before many lectures ago, is a great way to spark interest in your product. So I'm going to keep that. And all I'm going to do now is add my limited text, all right, my limited offer text. So if we go back to the ad itself as well, I had only 50 left at this discounted price. So I'm going to copy that and I'm going to paste it in here like that, okay? So now we see the ad previewing on the right hand side here. That looks pretty good, right? Would you love to own this heart-shaped dog pendant? Only 50 left at this discounted price. Now the headline itself, that's fine, heart-shaped dog pendant. That's exactly what it is. You don't need to get fancy with that or clever. You want to say exactly what it is. But the call to action, we are not learning anything here. What we want to do is to go shopping. So let's find the Shop Now button. That's what we want. That's our call to action, if you like. Now there are various other parameters in here, but quite frankly, you do not need to worry about any of it. All of this should be well set up now. We've been through everything. I've taken you through every single step, and you now have your very first ad set up. So there really is only one thing left to do now, and that is simply to hit the confirm button. So there we have it. Facebook has accepted the ad, and I'm now looking at the ads manager, and I'm going to explain all of this very, very soon. Now, before we move on, just one point. You may see when you click on that confirm button, you may see that you are prompted to enter in your payment details, your credit card or your PayPal or whatever it is, to obviously pay for your ads. Now, for me, that didn't happen because I have payment systems set up already. So you may not go straight to this, but if you didn't, just go through the payment process, set that up, and once that's done, you'll be looking at a page very, very similar to this. So super congratulations, you have now got your first ad in place. Now that took quite a long time, I appreciate that, but you will get better and better at this. And before you know it, you'll be putting all kinds of ads and campaigns together very, very quickly and efficiently. So in the next lecture, and to complete this whole demonstration campaign, we're going to do what's called a split test. So I'll see you very, very soon. So you've created your first ad, fantastic news. Now what we do at this point typically is what we call a split test, sometimes called an A/B test. All it is creating a copy of your ad and changing one thing. Now why would we do that? Well, we just created an ad and it's kind of like our best guess, if you like, as to the best ad we could possibly come up with. But we don't really know until we go out there and test it on the market. We don't know whether it's going to respond that well or not. So what we'll do is we will basically create variations of that ad. And in this case, I'm just going to create one, which is typically what I do. But often you'll see people create many, many variations of the ad and then basically test them all and see which one performs the best, yeah, and then drop the others. So it's basically a way of finding out by testing which one of your ads is going to perform the best. Now, it's entirely up to you whether you do this. It's not compulsory by any means. It's definitely worth, if you can, doing one. So at least one variation. But sometimes, for budgetary reasons, for example, because it will be another $3 a day to be doing this, you may not want to do it. So I totally understand if you don't want to, but if you can, I would certainly suggest you do it. In fact, I would strongly encourage you to do it. It's very, very important. So let's dive over to our Facebook ads now and see how we can actually put a split test together. So here we are, and this is the screen I left you looking at the end of the last lecture. And just to repeat, I am going to explain all these stats coming up. But right now, I just want you to recognize that we've got a campaign that we set up called the Heart-Shaped Dog Pendant Campaign 1. So if you click on that, you see, as I'm sure you remember, ad set 1. And what we're going to do is we're going to create a copy of the ad set. Okay, that's how we're going to do our split test. Now to do that, it's very straightforward. Just basically select it, and then here, just hit duplicate. And if you take existing campaign and just basically hit duplicate again, then it will pull up an exact copy of your ad set. It's even called an ad set 1 copy. Now the only thing we're going to change here, because we're going to keep everything at the ad set level exactly the same, is simply the name. So we're going to call it ad set 2, okay? And click on publish. And then once that's all been accepted, just simply click on close. So now what you see is we have ad set 1 as we had before, and now ad set 2 as we just created. Now if I click in ad set 2, I will get to the advert itself. So here it is. And this is where we're going to make our one change. So what I want to do is click on edit. And at this point, as I just said, we are going to make one change. Now, why only one? Well, if you step back and think about it, we are wanting to test two different types of ads. We want to see whether making a change will make a difference to the number of people that are clicking and then ultimately buying from us. So let's say I changed two things. I changed the text and I also changed the image, and as a result I got 100% more sales than before. Now that would be great, but I wouldn't know whether to attribute that to the change of the text or the change of the image. So by changing only one thing, if I just simply change the image, for example, and my sales go up by 100%, then I know for sure that it was all about the image. So I hope that makes it perfectly clear why we only ever change one thing. So here, to change the image, very, very easy. We just scroll down a bit until we find that image. We can click on Clear Images, and then we can select a different image. So I'll take this one with the black background this time. Again, maybe just do a little bit of editing, make sure it looks all right. There we go, pretty happy with that. Let's just say, and done. So that's it, we've changed one image. Now I've done this fairly quickly, and to be honest, that's not the best image that I want. I'd probably zoom in a little bit more and make that a bit clearer. But I'm trying to make the point of the one change. That's what this lecture is all about. So here, all I now need to do is click on publish. And once that's all done, just click on close. And now just go back to the campaign, okay, where we started. And if you click on that link to the campaign, and if I go into the ad set 1, you can see this is the one running with the white background. And if I go into ad set 2, you can see that's the one running with the black background. Now, as I said right at the beginning, it's not absolutely essential. I appreciate that we are now spending another $3 a day. But if you can, really go for it. It's a very, very important part of advertising, split testing or A/B testing, whatever you want to call it. And this is a very, very basic example, but it is enormously powerful. And in the long run, it can pay huge dividends. So congratulations, not only have we set up our first ad, but we now have a split test running. So in the next lecture, let's talk about what all these numbers mean, because while these ads are currently in review, as you can see here, they'll soon be running, and we're going to start seeing numbers popping up here. So it'd be good to know what they all mean. So in this lecture, I want to take the opportunity to talk about the Ads Manager, because this is an interface that you are going to get very, very familiar with, trust me. Now, like a lot of things, it's highly complex. There's an enormous amount of information in here, but actually you don't need much of it at all. In fact, what I'm going to show you in this lecture are the key things that you need to concentrate on so that you can run your business as efficiently as possible. Now, what we have across the top here are 4 tabs: the account overview, campaigns, ad sets, and ads for one ad set. And basically, as we go left to right, we are going into more and more detail. So if I click on campaigns, we have the campaign that we set up. And if I were to click on this link here, it's exactly the same as going to the ad sets. So if I click on this, you'll see I go to the ad sets, and now this one is highlighted. And if I click on the ad set, I go to the ad within the ad set. Now your key tab here are the ad sets. This is where you're going to be spending most of your time to make the right decisions. I'm not saying all of the information is here, but certainly the key information. So I'm going to take you through this particular tab in a bit more detail. Now this first column is the delivery. So basically they're both active at the moment. I can basically pause these or stop them entirely at any time. Now this next column, results, I'm going to come back to in a minute because that is the most important one. After that we have a reach, which is basically the number of the people that have seen my ad, and then we've got the number of impressions, which is the number of times Facebook has actually shown it. Then we've got a cost per result, so that gives you an idea, for example, of how many times Facebook has had to show the ad before somebody makes a purchase. After that we've got things like our budget, the amount spent, when it's going to end, our schedule, and if we just go slightly to the right here, we find something else of minor interest that people get slightly obsessed with, but is the link clicks, the number of times that people have actually clicked on your link. Now just before I go back to that main one, the results column, I do want to just show you this. Okay, so the columns can in fact be changed, so you have all kinds of preset reporting going on here, and you can in fact customize them. Now I really don't recommend, particularly in the beginning, that you get heavily involved in this, because you will potentially get lost in all of these stats and get more and more confused. And what I'm doing here is I'm showing you what you really need to focus on. I'm taking you straight to the most important info. So by all means, go ahead and indulge yourself, but please don't confuse yourself and just go down some rabbit hole that's then very difficult to come out of. Just keep it simple. Now on that note, I want to go back to my key column here, the results. Now, this is what it's all about, because we are in business here, and if people don't buy things from our site, we don't have a business. It's as pure and simple as that. But many people seem to lose focus of that absolutely key metric. Now, the reason why we're seeing purchase here is because, as I'm sure you remember, when we set up the ad, we set it to record the purchase event, as part of our pixel. Had we set add to cart or some of those other events that I had shown you, you would see a different result. But I choose purchase because purchase at the end of the day is really all that matters. So what you're going to see here is if as a result of ad set 1 you have 1 sale, you'll see a 1 in here. And if ad set 2 has 100 sales, then you're going to see 100 in here. And this is the thing that you ultimately want to keep an eye on, okay? This is the key. Now in the next couple of lectures coming up, I'm going to give you some key knowledge so that you can make the right decision about what you're seeing inside of your ads manager. Okay, this is now super exciting. We have got an ad running and we are checking every 5 seconds to see if somebody's bought something from us, right? Now, so what do we do now? We've got these 2 ads running, and we want to know how long to run them for, and how do we decide whether they're performing right, or should we stop them, should we carry on, should we increase our budget, what should we do? So this is a very important lecture because I've entitled this Scale or Kill. So are we going to scale up the ad or are we going to kill it? Now the first key thing I want you to do is to run your ad for 3 days, or your ads, depends on whether you've done the split testing or not. Run them for 3 days. Now, why 3 days? Well, it actually takes the Facebook algorithm a little bit of time, 24 hours, 48 hours, I don't know exactly, but it takes a little bit of time for it to actually start serving your ads up to the right people at a good cost. It's just kind of how it works. It's how their algorithm works. So, I feel they do a kind of scatter approach at the beginning, obviously based on the targeting that you've done. And then they do kind of more clever targeting within their algorithm to actually try to identify perhaps better groups that are more likely to buy your stuff. But that process for them takes a little while. It's an iteration. Don't worry about it too much, but just accept the fact that you need to let your ads run for 3 days. Now, your objective during this period is to make a profit, surprise, or at least break even. Right? Now that might seem a bit weird. At least break even. Sorry, that should say least, not least. But anyway, you get the idea. So the reason why I can allow my ads to actually break even is because I will have acquired a customer. And in a later slide, I'm going to talk about list building, the importance of a list, the importance of a customer. But basically, just imagine you've got that customer. Okay, you haven't made any money out of them this time around, but you will have the details of that customer. You will have the email address. You will have the opportunity to direct email them in the future to make sales. And trust me, that is very, very valuable. You will make a profit down the road, but maybe not straight away. So for the moment, just accept that basically you're doing this to make a profit, or at least to break even. Now, the reality is that not all of your ads are going to generate sales. Okay, so don't expect for one moment, you might get lucky, your very first one starts to generate sales and you've got, an embarrassment of riches. But basically, it's unlikely. The odds are stacked against you. That's just how it is. That's advertising, whatever you do. All right, and maybe only 1 in 10 of them will actually make a sale of some sort. Okay, so what we want to do is, if after 3 days an ad is not performing, i.e. we've not made a profit or we've not broken even, we want to kill it. Okay, we just want to stop that ad. And I would suggest being brutal about it. Okay, that's certainly what I do. Some people will go down the path of saying, well, it didn't quite work. Maybe we should change, our targeted audience a bit. Or maybe we should change another thing on the ad, the photo, whatever. Personally, in my experience, you can go a little bit mad with that. What I tend to do is just say, okay, stop. I'm not doing this one anymore. I'm killing it. I will go and find another product. I might show it to the same audience that I had before, but I will basically start over and I will kill it. And by the way, I'll generally leave that product on my site, because what you'll find is that as you do this, products will start building up on your site. And although you might not sell it this time around as a direct, with the direct Facebook advertising, later on down the road when you bring somebody else into your site for perhaps another product, they will see that on your site and they may well buy. I've had many, many situations where people come in to buy a product and they're not buying 3 or 4, of stuff that I was not successful in previous test runs. Now, this is the key point. The winning ad, when you get a winning ad, okay, that can generate the dollars. So when you read, not all ads will generate sales, maybe 1 in 10, probably you started thinking, wow, I'm going to have to spend quite a lot here on advertising to get that one sale, which is, maybe true. Maybe you've got to spend tens of dollars, something like that, as part of this testing process. But when you get that winning ad, trust me, that's when the fun starts, because that's the one that can generate, hundreds, sometimes thousands. I don't want to get you overexcited about this, but if you get the right ad matched up to the right audience, that's going to pay for all of the rest multiple times over, and that is where you're going to really build your business. So that's when we're going to actually scale the winning ad. We've dropped the non-performing ones, we've got rid of those, and we're left with the winning ad. We're going to drop everything else and we're going to scale this up so that we can really generate some money. And then the next lecture, I'm going to give you some tips on exactly how to scale. So you've run your ad in the test period for 3 days and it's either created a profit or it's broken even. So you have a winning test ad. We talked about this in the previous lecture. You've dropped all the other ones. Now what are you going to do? How are you going to scale this thing up to start making some serious cash? Well, rookie mistake number 1. Do not be tempted to ramp it up by 100x, 100 times, for example. So this is a classic mistake. You're spending $3 a day and you think, right, I found it. I will now ramp up to $300 a day. Because if you do that, and I can understand the temptation, because suddenly you're going to reach an enormously, going to reach a massive audience compared to before, and presumably, start selling 100 times more product and therefore 100 times more profit. If you do that, what happens is that you confuse, believe it or not, the Facebook algorithm. Okay, you just need to accept this. The Facebook algorithm is a little bit of a sensitive beast, and you can't just ramp up by 100x in one go. So what you do is you increase your budget by 1.5 times. Okay, so if you're spending $3 a day, for example, and you found the winning ad, increase it to $4.50 a day. All right, so you've gone from $3 to $4.50, and then at $3.50, keep that for another 3 days. So we are making baby steps. And in fact, this makes a huge amount of sense, because not only are we not confusing the Facebook algorithm, but in business, it's daft to suddenly make huge increases in spending when you're still not 100% sure about this product. Sure, the test period went well, but what you still want to do is make little baby steps and make sure that you're on the right path each time. Yeah, each time we go. So just go from $3 multiplied by 1.5, so $4.50, and keep it for another 3 days. Now, at the end of that 3-day period, it's the same question you need to ask yourself, or you can see it on your ads manager. Did you generate a profit, or at least break even? Yeah, it's a yes or no question. It's very, very simple to answer. If it's a yes, then you want to increase the budget by another 1.5x. So we were at $4.50, and if I try and do that in my head, we're going to end up with something like $6, let's say, right? A little bit more. So, you know, I'll hold that for another 3 days and see if I can create a profit or break even. And if I do, then I'll increase it by another 1.5 for 3 days. And so I'll go on and on like that. Now, eventually you're going to get to, you know, spending $100 or maybe $200, $300, $400 a day. But all that while you've been doing that, you are making sales. You're covering your costs at very least if you're break even. And if you're making a profit, then happy days. You're sticking money in the bank. This is great stuff. But if you don't do that, what you want to do is go back to the previous budget. So any time in that loop of increasing the budget by 1.5x and holding it for 3 days, if you don't make a profit, just drop it down to where you were before. Keep it for another 3 days. You know, if it didn't work that time, then maybe drop it back down again. Or if it did, bring it back up again. Yeah. So you are making these small changes either way, and that is how you scale correctly. Okay, it's baby steps, it's bit by bit, it's patience, it's using your hard-earned money correctly and wisely in order to generate profit. So you've started driving targeted traffic to your site. Some people are buying, hopefully, some people are putting stuff in the cart, some people aren't doing anything at all. Now, it would be kind of cool to be able to see what was actually happening on your website for each visitor. Well, you may or may not be aware, but there are some fantastic software products out there. One of them that I like in particular is this one here called Lucky Orange. And basically, it records everything that somebody does on your site. So it's almost as if you're looking over their shoulder as each and every one of your visitors comes to your site. So it's absolutely brilliant, for example, for just identifying if there are any problem areas, why people may not be adding something to the cart. You know, you get to see exactly what it looks like on different supports, on mobiles, on PCs, on iPads, whatever it might be. You get to see all of that. Now, I don't think this is a long-term thing that you need to do. But certainly in the beginning, when you're basically getting started and you want to be sure, you want to be confident that your site is performing to its best ability and you haven't missed out any tricks. So yeah, I brought you over to this site, as you can see by now, Lucky Orange, which does exactly that. I mean, go here, watch their little video on their homepage. It's very intuitive. You'll see straight away. You know, make use of the free trial. If you want to use it, then it's I think it's something like $10 a month, but I'm not sure that's necessary. That's entirely up to you. It's not the only gig in town either, of course. This is another site called Hotjar, which does more or less the same sort of thing. And of course, you know, there are several. If you Google Lucky Orange competitors, for example, you're going to bump into a handful of these. I'm only drawing your attention to these two because I've used both of them. Personally, I think they're great. They fit the bill very, very well for what we're doing. So yeah, definitely make use of these. As always, don't get obsessed by these sorts of things. They're not a silver bullet. They're not going to solve all your problems or anything, but they are definitely extremely useful. So let's just take a step back and think about where we are right now, because this is pretty cool stuff. We have learned a huge amount here. So, as well as talking about markets and how to identify markets, how to identify products within those markets that are going to sell, and also the types of customers that are going to buy them through our customer avatar, we have now put in place a process via Facebook where we can target those types of people and we can bring them straight to our site in order that they will buy them. And not only that, but we have a system in place, a basic but powerful system in place that we can easily follow to ramp up ads that are working and kill those that aren't. So in short, you now have all the knowledge you need to rinse and repeat, right? Basically, all you got to do now is go out, find them more products, find markets if you want, find products in those markets, test customer avatars, build new ads, go through that process that we've been through in the last 20 odd lectures or so, and just keep rinsing it, go over and over again and repeat, rinse, take the money from it each time and just keep going over it. You're going to learn. Sure, you're going to make mistakes, but you're going to learn along the way and you're going to start to make money, and you're going to start to realize how powerful this business model actually is. So go for it. Take it to the next level. It's entirely up to you now. I've given you the wings. Now you can fly. So really, really go for it. I wish you the best of luck. Now, clearly we're not done yet. We got a lot to discuss, and I've got a lot more stuff for you, which is going to help you even further.